G'day guys, Matty from Extreme Auto Caravan and Camping with you again today on a Spinifex. Now there's a little bit of a backstory behind this one, so stick around. It's pretty interesting actually, you'll like this one. So this one here, old mate sought out to get a pretty decent off-grid setup installed by another company because we couldn't do it in time. And let's just say the products that they used was Mickey Mouse. You can't fault. So we had the mass combi, the Enerdrive inverter charger, pretty much on par with the Victron. So that's a 12 volt 3120 amp inverter charger. So that was installed. It was all the Enerdrive stuff. So I had the well, their products that they used to fit in a lot of their vans. So I had your Morningstar solar controllers. So two of those large Morningstar solar controllers. Great solar controller. Had a 40 plus DC charger, Enerdrive there, and he had three 300 amp hour Enerdrive BTEC batteries all fitted up. Solar was in the vicinity of 1300 watts or 1400 watts installed. So there's 7 180s and then the cheeky 120 put at the back, and we'll get into that in a minute. That's pretty big numbers. Now, old mates had nothing but issues with the setup. So I had the Cymarine monitoring system. So for you guys that are aware of the Cymarine systems, they are absolutely brilliant if they are set up correctly. Well, let's just say this one was a horrible shit show. Excuse the language, but it was. The ePro battery monitor that was in here was, there were 3 shunts. There were 3 large high current shunts. You don't need 3 shunts. I don't know what their thought process was behind having that system in place. You know, they had the quad shunt from Simarine, which is basically 4 25 amp shunts, and you know, he's bridged it and did all sorts of stuff, and it was just a mess. I wouldn't even waste your time in explaining the problems. Let's just say there was so many to list. It'd be a whole nother video. Just look back at those photos. Actually, I'll put up a photo now. Check this out. Unfortunately, old mate's had nothing but issues with it. It's a fresh install, you know, only April this year, and none of it works right. There's 1,400 odd watts of solar on the roof. We've got all premium Enerdrive stuff here. We are going to redo it using his existing battery. So there's 900 amp hours here, but just take note of how it's done. We've got, would you believe, 3 shunts. Simarine massive shunt there, another Simarine massive shunt there. There's the, he's got the solar running through this on 8BS. I mean, it's nowhere near enough gauge cable. You know, we've got terminals all over the place. There's another shunt over there for the ePro. So there's an ePro battery monitor in there. Got the Simarine system in it as well. There's another battery monitor. It's just a horrible, I have to say, it's a shit show. See what I mean? So even the link cables between the batteries, they were on 25mm square cable, but 2 of them doubled up into a 50mm lug. But there were bits of 50mm cable and even 95 cable. It was kind of a mixed bag. I didn't really understand the thought process. Almost like a couple of people tried to do the job and someone started it and someone... Anyway, it didn't work. There was mismatch in charge. There was monitoring issues. Old mate couldn't see solar yield left to right. It was just not working properly. He couldn't understand a thing. He had no control up here of what's going on up the front whatsoever. So he's hit us up a while back, you know, as we've booked out pretty heavily. And I said, look, I don't like to band-aid patch things. In other words, if I'm going to do it, I'm not going to come here and leave what's existing and then just make it better. I want to start again. That way I can guarantee it's going to work. Plus, monitoring was horrible. On the Simarine, there's no water tank monitoring, even though you can do that with those differential pressure sensors or a tank sender. None of it was installed, so he's got no ability to monitor the battery, the water tanks properly, because there are, 400 litres of water, 2 tanks in this, and then you've got a black tank for sewage, and you've got the grey tank at the rear. So there's like 4 tanks on board to be able to monitor, and he couldn't do anything. So I said, look, let's go Victron, and let's keep your batteries. Let's use your Enerdrive batteries. It's a big investment there. They're not a cheap battery, guys, by all means. And look at the video and look at the size of them too. They take up almost the whole width of the van to produce 900. So there are other options out there that are smaller, higher capacity batteries, and you know where that's going to go. But look, he already invested a lot of money in those batteries, so why not? They're brand new, April installed, and we're only September, so we've used them. Now, we've kept them in the same location, pretty happy with the location. We've just jiggled around a few things in there. So I'll take you out the front, we'll have a look in a second, but let's just say now the system that's installed in this, it is off-grid and running perfectly. Like, there is so much energy in this thing and completely monitored to the point of he can look at the touchscreen and he can see what's remaining in his battery and be 100% confident that that's the end game. That's whatever that says, that's it. If that says 50%, you are 50% state of charge. It'll never ever be inaccurate because we program the system to suit the batteries, and we understand how the batteries charge and discharge, and cable length, resistance, impedance. We take all of these factors into account when we program and commission the system up, and we can adjust and fine-tune the little intricacies in the app to be able to read these batteries perfectly. So we have done that for these guys. I've already done a full charge from mains because it's available, and solar was helping out at the same time. So I prioritized a bit of solar to begin with, then I forced a charge. So the mains and solar brought these batteries up to a full state of charge. So I'm still running this air conditioner and it has not moved. Now it's been about an hour and a half since we've reached that state of charge, and we are still at 100% state of charge. And that is because it's actually 29 here in Adelaide. I've got that air conditioner set on 16, freezing cold in here. I already got the Caravan down to temperature. So before we started, I put the air conditioner on, and the temperature and all the cupboard work and all the radiant heat just wasn't there. So all the cupboard work was kind of cool. So the efficiencies are already there. So I've turned this on and we're off grid and we haven't used any battery at all. In actual fact, it's only using about 520 watts running at the moment. So, and you know, we're producing 900 watts of solar. So we're actually charging the battery, but it's actually ramping back because the batteries are full. So it's actually throttling the solar now because the batteries are full. And our systems will do that. If it knows the batteries are full, it will back off any charge sources accordingly. So it's essentially a smart controller at a centralized unit. So that's the cerboGX. It will throttle your charge controllers that are attached to it perfectly. Now we've utilized old mate's DC charger. He already had it. It's a 40 plus. We've programmed that up the suit. He's got a pretty good setup to be able to you know, pump that energy in. So he'll see sort of between 40 and 50 amps coming from the vehicle when he's driving, as well as the monster array of solar, which we should get into now. So this solar setup that's on this, it's just an absolute shit show. The installation on them is done with those, they get folded checker plate aluminium, and they fold it up, they put it at the side of the panel, but they run it the full length of the panel, and they put it on both sides. Great for structural strength, but horrible for airflow and efficiency. So the hotter the panel gets, it will derate. It won't be as efficient. So the idea behind it is, if you've got a gap, which you should have between your panel and the roof of your Caravan, if you've got feet like we do, you inhibit airflow. And if you inhibit airflow, the panel will run cooler, more efficient, more power. It's the way it should be done. Plus, it's better to service. If you need to clean under your panel and get all those leaves and crap out, when you can't access the sides, it's just too hard. Plus, it looks better with the feet, much better. Just you stand at the side of the van and you see the nice panels laid out perfectly. It just looks better. But there are 7 Enerdrive 180s on this. So there are 4 on this driver's side, and there's 3 on this side. But here's the cheeky weird bit. They're all in parallel. Okay, so I haven't found a terminal box on the roof. I can just gather and just see under the panels where I believe he's basically done like a train line sort of, you know, because they've run 6BS cable, which is quite thick for solar, to the roof. So he's taken the current into account. It runs straight under the panels, and he's basically just picked up each panel as he go along. And that's fine, but you know, a terminal box on the roof probably would have been a bit better, somewhere centralized to get to. You know, no MC4 connections are used, so if you replace a panel, you are chopping and soldering. You know, if you break a panel, like drop a tool on it or a hailstorm, whatever, you've always got to have that redundancy thing. This one, it doesn't have it. So, but here's the kicker. So there's the 4 180s there, all in parallel. So it's what, 19 VOC. These here are all in parallel as well. Okay, so they're all in parallel here, but they've put a 120 watt Enerdrive panel at the rear. Yet the width could allow a 180, so I'm not sure what happened there, whether they ran out of stock or whatever, but there's a lot of evidence out there and a lot of videos showing what happens when you mix solar panels of different sizes. When you do it in series or parallel, there is an effect on the system. That is a definite. Generally speaking, it's all about you've got a certain amount of voltage on the line. All right, as an example, let's call it 20 volts. Let's say these panels produce their best power at 20 volts. Right, they'll have a higher VOC, which is your voltage over. But if you get the most power out of it, it will load those panels down, and the mppt tracker will look at that voltage to produce the best output, and it does. It'll lock onto the best voltage, and you can watch it in a graph, and it'll hold it there. When you add a mismatched panel to that system, you throw those numbers out, because now you've introduced another product with different parameters. So from a technical point of view, it will affect the system. Now, whether or not you will drag the wattage down on these 180s to match that 120 is up for debate. I'd like to see some really good test videos on that. But what I do know is that technically you will lose efficiency. So that's why we try and match the panels. You're not going to see a house with one array and then all of a sudden a different size panel and continue to go. Might be a bit different because they're in series, but same caper. It's all about when you daisy chain panels in parallel, you're not adding the voltage. you are doubling up on the amperage. That's how it works. So if you've got 3 panels at 20 volts, right, and then they're all producing, say, 10 amps, well, if you put them at parallel, that's going to be a 30 amp load on that line at 20 volts. Now, if you change that, right, let's change it up. Let's say you had 4 panels, okay, and you did 2 in series, so it goes to 40 volt open circuit. You put another 2 in series, you go to 40 volts, and then you parallel it up. So you've still got 40 volts, but now what you've done is you've dropped that load on the line. So because you've got that higher voltage, guys, you will get more charge over the day. So most, if not all, of the Victron charge controllers like to charge at about 5 volts above the battery voltage. So if you've got an 18 to 20 volt panel and your lithiums are sitting on 13.5, well, you can do some maths there. You're too close to that number. So what that means is early in the morning when the sun is low and you're getting that low light conditions, the voltage is lower. So it's not going to charge because you're probably not going to be 5 volts above your battery voltage. You want to be well above it, and that's why when we string it up to 40 volts, we gain that charge first thing in the morning and really late in the afternoon. Now, I do know this as a fact. If I were to rewire the system to the 40 volt setup, we would get more power out of the system. Guaranteed. That's a fact. Because there's such a load on that line, even though it is 6BS, there's a high load on that line from the roof and it's a very long cable run. There will be efficiency losses, plus the heat as well. So there's too much current on the PV side on this setup. But look, what we've done is we've rewired that into the Victron charge controllers. And look, it's not bad. I was getting like 980 watts up there, only 11 o'clock in the morning. So it's not a deal breaker. It's something I would like to change in the future, but that would entail ripping that 120 off from the roof, the Enerdrive 120, and putting a 180 there and pretty much restring all these panels. But we can deal with that with another day. We'll see how these guys go. I think we've hit the nail on the head and set these guys up well, because the numbers that we're seeing now on this were nowhere near what he's been able to even look at or even understand or even get by. He had shutdowns and all sorts of issues. So I think he only got 2 to 3 days of running and he was out of power. The good thing is now he's able to monitor it. So he knows where he is at every second and minute of the day just by looking at the screen. So he can now make proper decisions, smart decisions, because he's running 3 fridges. There's a lot going on in here. You get the Bushmans up here. There's a big slide out fridge at the back there. We've got a lot happening. One in the back of the car as well, which we'll plug in. Mains powered TVs. I think there's 4 TVs. I think he said it's nuts. Overnight he used nearly 150 amp hours just at 12 volt. No inverter on. And we got Starlink behind us too, which is 50 to 60 watts. So these guys are what I would call a heavy user. Had have I designed the system from point scratch, I would have said 1200 amp hours. And you're probably thinking that's a lot, that's a crazy amount. It is, but these guys have a big usage. Air conditioner, all these fridges, all the TVs, and these are things that are on for like long periods of time. So I would have liked to have been at sort of that, 16 kilowatt hours, 15 kilowatt hour mark for these guys. At least they can do it. If these 3 Enerdrive 300 amp hour batteries are not sufficient in capacity to do what they want, the good news is I've set them up to fit 4 PowerPaw Scouts. So that would put them at the 1200 amp hour mark, and they do not need to modify any existing infrastructure. It'll fit in there, and they'll still have actually more space because that is a smaller footprint with Paul's batteries as opposed to the Enerdrive 300s. So both batteries are great batteries, guys. Have no qualms with Enerdrive stuff. You guys see me fit heaps of their stuff. I love it. But I'm all about size and space, especially in a Caravan. Space is important. You will agree with me. You have to agree with me. Yes, there's a compromise, but when you can fit a small battery that has a small footprint with high capacity, you're going to do it, and that's why we do it. So let's go outside. I'm going to point at some things and tell you what some numbers mean and some labels mean, and show you what was original and what was done. So come with me. Alright guys, this is in the front boot on this Spinifex. So you can see the BTECs down here. I'll zoom in later and show you them. They're all in a nice neat line. So previously installed, we haven't touched these. These have been installed by the other company. So all these three are, you know, all in parallel, and we've all put them into, there we go. All right, so we'll put it into the links power in, and the reasoning behind that is we can add an additional battery later on if required. So it could actually take 4 batteries into this power in. So essentially these orange cables that you can see here, they are all at equal length to the millimeter. All right, these are. So that's set over there, and that's set right down the end. That's why it kind of strapping them in to hide them. I didn't want to make them at different lengths, so they are all at equal length straight into that links power in, and then the main terminals coming out of that links power in. That's the main circuit for the inverter. There's the smart shunt. That's the negative for the smart shunt, and then you got your master negative, which covers all of the loads and the big charges that we got on it. And that's as simple as it is at that point. And over here we got the LMI bus fuses, left-hand solar, right-hand solar, and there's the original DC charger. So this is the 40 plus DC charger. So this was in stock. So this is remaining. This is what was in here when we got here, and the 3 Enerdrive batteries. That's it. The rest is us. Obviously the wiring's us. You can see we've redone all this. It was an absolute shit show before we got here. There was conduit terminals, you know, exposed covers, just, mate, I'm shaking my head because it was a bloody mess. Anyway, it's not now, and it's heaps neater. Things just work. Protection devices and all products here. So the LMI fuses, DC charger, left-hand solar, right-hand solar in form, so left to right, you can work it out. There's the cerboGX. Obviously there's the inverter charger here. So the multiplus 12 3000 120 amp inverter charger. It's factory you know, integrated, running all the factory GPOs. But over here, I'll put you on the battery so I can show you. So this is all original. All right, so this is the Spinifex original setup, and it's just the 12 volt side of things. So it's got a master battery circuit breaker here. There's the fridge, it's got airbags on it. That's the old Submarine and step setup, fuse box, and there's your breakaway. It's had wire tie installed on this, and we've added this fuse box. We found circuits that were in here that were not labeled, so we've just given them another fuse box, and they've got a spare 4 fuses on it, so yeah. Well, that's the setup in here, guys. So 900 amp hours of lithium in the form of the Enerdrive BTEC batteries. Got the Victron 12 3000 120 amp inverter charger, running all the factory outlets, air conditioning, hairdryer, microwave, as many TVs as you want, the full show, Starlink, everything, you know, washing machine, hairdryer, you name it, guys. 250 amp solar controllers taking care of both arrays. So there's quite a bit of solar on this, between 1300 and 1400 watts on this puppy. There's the Enerdrive 40 amp DC to DC charger, and here's all the LMI fuses here taking care of all the circuits. Got the links power in over there as well as the smart shunt, all the busman set up here. 95, mixture of 95 and 50mm cable on this one to get everything set up properly. There's a couple of aluminium brackets over there, which is this old mate's bracket here that he built, which will sit back on top of the batteries as it was. So we have made no impact on this guy's storage, and they are able to be off grid now, and they don't have to worry about power, guys. They got enough water to last them, you know, 400 odd litres plus some more in the car. These guys are off grid. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Stick around, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll keep these videos coming. Enjoy. Thanks. Just to add, guys, I know it's a bit tricky to see because it's a hard angle, but basically this is the specifications on the BTEC 300. So it's a 40 to 100 amp nominal charge current. Discharge temperature is -20 to 60 degrees. And then you've got the standby float voltage, 13.5 to 13.6, and you get your charge voltage between 14.2 and 14.6. So we've set this for 14.4 for the charge voltage. And obviously we've set this at its full capacity at 120. So this has the ability to pump in 40 amps per battery absolutely perfectly. Let's go over here to the battery side. And there's that power in. So this cover that I'm just using to prop up this lid for now, this cover goes over this. And I know what you're thinking, it's metal. Yes, it is, but The whole back side of that is laminated and covered. So it sits on top of that. Actually, it doesn't sit on top of the batteries, it sits on top of these brackets here. So it's a good, 50, 60 mil on top of the batteries, and it kind of goes like that, and then it steps down. A much neater setup than what it previously was. I'm sure these guys are going to be happy. Before I go, totally forgot. Sensors. This thing, we went to town with sensors. So we've got 3 Ruuvi tags. One for his beer fridge, one for the freezer in here, the Bushman's, and another in the fridge here. So there's 3 Ruuvi tags, all monitored on the screen. Also, water tank sensors. We've done the Mopekas. There are 2 of them on his 200 litre tanks, underfloor tanks. So 2 of those sensors all on the touchscreen, as well as he's got a black water tank on this one. So a massive stainless black water tank at the rear and a big grey tank as well. So 4 Mopeka wireless Bluetooth sensors all up on that Touch70 there. Easier to see on the VRM porthole as well, so you can monitor, set alarms as you need. So I'll flick your hand and you have a look. So if you want to see your tank monitoring, it's easy. It just opens up another screen for you. So not only do you have nothing here now, but you've now got your front tank, rear tank, grey tank, black tank. Fly over again, and there's the rest of your stuff, which are really good format to look at this one. So you got your fresh water there, there's the waste, and there's your black. You want to click that one and go back, or that one there. Pretty cool, hey? Now if you want more information on the actual tank or the product, you just click menu and then you go into it. So there's your battery area temp, beer fridge. I like this one. So if you want more info on it, you can see it. It even shows your pressure. You can tell when it's going to rain. There's your black tank, 28 degrees outside. That's going to be a very smelly tank at that degree, at that temperature. Freezer, fridge, front tank, grey tank. There's your percentage. Rear tank, solar left and right. All there, guys, at your fingertips. This is a Touch70, so I absolutely love it. It is a beautiful location. It is right in front of your face. Not in front of my face. It is in front of my face, but old mate's quite tall. He's like 6 foot, so I'm, what, 5'10". Not super tall, but tall enough. And I can easily access this. You can see it's right there. But he's able to walk in here, turn his head, and it is right here. The original location for the sine read, old mate had it in here. And like you see me say it heaps of times, I'm fine with fitting it up in the cupboards, but you get issues where if you want to look at it and monitor what's going on, you've got to have the cupboard open like this, and that's not desirable for some people. So it's just much easier when you just do this, fit it over there. So bloody cool. Look at that, easy. Cool, guys. Running the air conditioner still, batteries are still 100%. There it is. This is the real world. We're actually we reached. This will be tapering off at the moment. Because they are full of charge. You can see 14.4, so it's probably holding absorb. That's why it's kind of not even using any power, but see how smart it is, how it knows to keep up with it. So when you install the system the way we do it, and we take a lot of different considerations in mind, not just the products, what we use, there are a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you guys will probably never see. It's too hard. But the reasoning that you're seeing this and this accuracy here is because of the way we fit it. It's working out what to use from the solar only. Now that would be backing off. We're in peak sun, so if I were to put another load on, that will ramp up. But it doesn't need to. It's only utilizing what's required to run this load at this given moment. And there's not really anything going into the batteries at all. Cool bananas. We are 100% state of charge full here on 900 amp hours. That's our solar production at the moment. It's about 11:30, and we're running the IBIS 4 air conditioning here, represented as the AC loads there in this Spinifex. Absolutely awesome off-grid setup.